Hello, everybody, and welcome to Two Geeks and One New, where we gather friends of similar interests and maybe not so similar and discuss, joke, learn more about, and generally have fun with geek culture. We've got a tiny little topic for today's discussion.
I see what you did there.
Yeah. We're talking Ant-Man, Quantumania, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania.
There you go.
Can't forget the other lead in there. But yeah, we're talking about the new movie that just came out. We all saw it, thankfully. And oh wait, did Caleb? Did you ever see it?
Yeah, I saw it.
Okay. Perfect. Okay, just wanted to make sure.
I like how you wait until
we all
the
saw
recording
it.
starts to say, "Oh wait, have you actually seen it?"
I'll cut that part out. That's all good.
No, we won't.
But yeah, so we all saw it, and yeah, I mean, I was thoroughly impressed by it.
Believe it or not, I actually enjoyed myself. It was a genuinely fun movie. So
Yeah.
I'm
What about you,
apparently the
Caleb?
grump on this one because I didn't enjoy it at all.
What?
No, I was not impressed with it by any means.
I didn't say that. I said I enjoyed it.
What didn't you like about it?
Story was just sporadic at best. It bounced around so much that didn't feel like there was like cohesion to the story. It just felt like it was really like struggling to try and figure out what they were doing and where they were going to go with it, and it's just jumping from one spot to another for the sake of doing so. The CGI was not good.
Agreed.
I will agree. There was
This
a few
probably-
parts that were pretty bad.
This was probably the worst Marvel CGI we've seen up to date, I think.
Yes, I will fully agree with that statement. I will say from a character perspective, that was probably as close to what I understand canon MODOK to be that we will get in the MCU. Additionally, this is one thing where I think the movie did exceptionally well. It emphasized the traits of the different characters in ways that were relatable, but almost as though everyone was trying to meet with Rudd's typical, just barely over the top style. But yeah, I'm not going to say it was a perfect movie. I'm just going to say it was a thoroughly enjoyable movie.
Yeah.
From the perspective of that was fun.
Like, it was definitely not the worst Marvel movie. I mean, I feel like
Well, yeah,
Eternals-
Captain Marvel wasn't in it.
like between Captain Marvel and Eternals, I feel like the worst Marvel movies are pretty set in my opinion. But yeah, I just this one wasn't for me at all.
Yeah. See, for me, my brother and I were talking the other day, and we were like, "Oh, where would you rank it under like between the phase, like the latest phase and this one?" And so like apparently this one starts the next phase, but I kind of lumped it in with this recent phase, and I was like, between last phase, which there was definitely a lot of rough movies, and like I ended up putting this one like number 3, like because I was like, okay, No Way Home and Multiverse of Madness are my top 2, and then I thought Ant-Man was pretty dang good compared to all the other movies, so just like most of the movies have been, and coming from me, it's been not so great, and I totally get everybody's kind of gripes about it, but yeah, no, I understand people's gripes about this latest phase. I've enjoyed most of them, but I know that there's been some rough movies, but I thought that this one ranked top 3 for me.
This is actually the start of Phase 5, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, this is the first of Phase 5.
Okay.
I think that it's a step in the right direction for Marvel.
I'm not with you on that one because, like, I do think it was better than a lot of the Phase 4 movies. Because, I mean, Phase 4, let's just be honest, Phase 4 was pretty disappointing. To go from the the peak that we got with Endgame and just that satisfying conclusion to so many stories into Phase 4, where it really felt like they just didn't really know what they were wanting to do or where they wanted to take a lot of it. It felt like they were scrambling a lot in Phase 4.
Definitely.
And so, like, again, this movie was by no means the worst Marvel movie, because there's definitely movies that just are very solidly holding down that spot.
Yeah.
But, like, for me, like, this was just kind of aggressively mid, in my opinion.
Yeah. I can definitely see that. And I think you're right. I think the CGI was definitely very questionable at best. But I will say at the same time, like with especially MODOK, it was very jarring in the in the first part of it, but I kind of got used to it, and I was like, okay, it's not as bad as it could be, but it's definitely not the best.
Yeah.
But then like I said, I got used to it, and I was like, okay, this is a ridiculous character, and they made it ridiculous. So
I was expecting ridiculous. I didn't expect this, like, budget CGI that they did with it, because, like, the CGI was really bad on this one. Like, I knew that MODOK was gonna look kind of wonky because, like, MODOK. Like, that's really all you need to say.
Big head, little body. Yeah.
Like,
No,
I got a big head, little arms.
those were my exact first thoughts when he made his first appearance.
Yeah. But, like, I don't know, like, even expecting him to look ridiculous, when I saw just how bad the CGI was, I was like, okay, you blew your budget on Wakanda Forever and had nothing left over after that.
Yep.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
It was actually confirmed.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think it was actually confirmed that they had spent a large portion of the budget on Wakanda Forever, and because of a lot of the, like, financial changes and things going on at Marvel right now, and them having to, like, roll back and change up their pace for the movies and shows and stuff, they kind of, like, they don't have that, like, endless budget that they had been getting up to this point.
Yeah. Okay. I do want to take a moment to point out something that I think they did surprisingly well from a writing perspective. They, in writing, typically you want to avoid telegraphing. You want to do more foreshadowing. And they did something that I think it only makes sense with a multiverse style storyline, but that's also just because I've not spent much time to think on it creatively or think on it at all. Which is they used telegraphing as a form of foreshadowing.
In what instance are you talking about?
Are we cool with spoilers?
I mean, yeah, we're discussing the movies.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. All right. So there's a scene where Kang makes mention that he killed Thor. Definitive fact and a statement. He killed Thor. Mm-hmm. But he's so confused by the different multiverses and the different times because he doesn't realize which one has happened yet and which one hasn't. Mm-hmm. So they're using that device of, oh, he's multidimensional.
Yeah.
He's multidimensional. He is a time traveler. What the crap?
Yeah.
So now you're sitting there wondering, like, so are we going to see him kill Thor or not? Or is that going to be a big play to protect Thor? So that's what I mean by they're using telegraphing as a form of foreshadowing.
Yeah.
Which, in this particular instance for the storyline, that was brilliant. That was good writing on their end, and hats off to the writers on it.
Yeah.
Now, Caleb, to your earlier point, yeah, they did a lot of head hopping.
Yeah, like, there was just, like, with the one sequence, they were with 3 characters overlooking a desert scape, and then it just suddenly jerks over to other characters in a village, and then
Yeah.
it rapidly jumps back over to the desert scape, and then back to the village, and it just jumped around so much. I was like, how did this get through the editing floor at this like jarring pace? Like,
Yeah.
did you guys just like mess something up? Did you not know what you exactly you wanted to do? Like, what was going on here? Because this is just like breakneck pace, flipping back and forth from here to here to here to here to here.
Yeah.
Right.
I definitely agree. And I feel like they've been lacking on the editing side of things for most of the movies in the phase. Because like even with the sound quality, like the music and stuff, like it feels like there's no epic music. There's like it's so soft and it's so like these epic moments should be emphasized by this music, but it's all just monotone, like
Yeah.
weird music that sounds like it should have some epic like crescendos and stuff, but like it's just not getting there at all. And I noticed it the most in Eternals and this one, and I feel like Thor was the same, but Thor was a little bit better because it had all that 80s music and stuff, which I think they kind of overdid a little bit in that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I fully agree that there's some editing issues going on at Marvel that's just kind of like, okay, what happened to your budget?
Well, I know
Yep.
that like there's been a few issues that have been getting some reports going around about it. So like for one, they've been having issues with some of the CGI studios in Hollywood are just like to their like wits end, and just some of them are outright saying they're not going to work with Marvel because they are just like giving them this insane deadline and crunch time, and it's just like they just can't get through the amount of work in the time that they're being expected to get through in a realistic manner, and they're like wanting all of these different things. And so like the CGI, that I think has been a long time coming just because of all of the issues that they've been having with the various studios. Like you don't get to like walk up to all of these different studios and say you'll get it done in a week and expect the quality to remain where it is, especially with the amount of content that they've been pumping out. So like that I think was just not a matter of if but when. But I agree, like the music has definitely taken a fall. Like just I remember seeing some of the first Avengers movies and hearing the music as I was sitting there in the theater and just feeling that hype and excitement. And like I don't feel that with a lot of the music in these newer movies.
Yeah. All I know the music, it's definitely that's been one of the fairly consistent strong points up until Phase 4 with MCU, from what I recall, where more often than not, the music would kind of prime you for what's about to happen on screen. Even to the point of scene breaks where, I mean, you see the scene break and it cuts out the music as well. And you're sitting like, wait, no, we're about to miss something vital over there.
Yeah.
And then they'll bring it in. So they were able to actually blend both the filmmaking, the writing, and the music previously, whereas now it's almost, I don't want to go this far, but it's the only way I can think of to phrase it right now. It's almost as though the music's an afterthought.
Yeah.
And honestly, like I even noticed a little bit of that decline in the music in Endgame. Like it wasn't to the extent of Phase 4, but like in Endgame there was these moments, like I said before, where it was like should have been an epic moment that fell a little flat just because of how the music was.
I feel like Endgame was the last time that we got it to the caliber that we kind of expected it with Marvel. Like post Endgame is where things have dropped off, and there's definitely been moments throughout, whether it be for music or CGI or action or story or whatever, that have really delivered. And I do think there were some fun moments in Ant-Man. Like I'm not going to say that it was a terrible movie, because like some of the action sequences towards the end of the movie that we can discuss a little bit later, I did enjoy, and I thought they were pretty cool. But for me, I was just sitting there like, man, I just sat through like an hour and a half just to get to this one cool moment.
Yeah.
And there's so much else that I feel like they could have done in that. And it's like the first Ant-Man was a really fun movie. The second one, I don't think quite hit the same stride as the first one, but I did enjoy it.
Yeah.
And then this one, I was just like, man, there's some characters that I enjoyed that aren't here. There's characters I didn't enjoy that are here.
Yep.
Okay, y'all are gonna have to fill me in on that one.
Luis.
Oh,
He wasn't in this one.
I forgot about him.
And I fully agree with that, Caleb. I think they should have had him in it. Even the Russian dude too, like or Ukrainian or whatever it is.
Could you imagine just the like shenanigans that if Luis had been pulled into the quantum realm and was just running around like, I don't know what's happening. Like there's so much fun stuff that they could have done with him just freaking out in the background and not really like comprehending what's happening. And like it definitely felt like there was just something missing with him not being there.
Yeah. I still fully think that they should do some kind of short or even one full movie of him just explaining the MCU.
Oh, that would be a lot of fun.
That would be amazing. Oh, I would love that.
I do think that Paul Rudd, like in classic Paul Rudd fashion, stood out in this movie. He was definitely one of if not the strongest point in the movie. I feel like really all of the key cast members around them did a great job.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't fault any of the actors for any of the issues with the movie. It was 100% the storytelling, the CGI, and the music.
Yeah.
I will say one caveat to that one, and I think it's just because of the look they went with, was Evangeline Lilly's Wasp. I cannot stand that haircut on her.
Yeah.
And it messed with her character a little bit, I think, too.
Admittedly, when she was on screen, I kept thinking back of, oh, look, it's Julia Roberts playing Tinkerbell again.
Yeah.
It kind of made me think of that scene from Big Bang Theory. They're just like, why did Penny cut off her hair? It's like she's still an attractive woman, but it's like, why'd that cute girl cut off all her hair?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Like, I still think she did a good job with the character. Like, she's a good actress and she did well with the character. I will say that like Jonathan Majors just did a fantastic job.
Yes, he did.
Killed it. Yeah.
Like,
That and also the cameo.
Yeah.
The cameo role was priceless.
So I'm torn on that one. Like I think it was funny and there was some fun moments, but it also felt like, okay, he's here just because we can say he's here. You know what I mean?
It did seem like the role they chose for him on that allowed him to outstay his welcome.
Yeah, a little bit. And I guess we'll go ahead and say what happened with this one since we're talking spoilers and whatnot anyway. But Bill Murray finally made his Marvel cinematic debut.
Yeah.
And which is nice.
There was definitely some like funny moments and like it has some comedy to it, but I agree it absolutely like overstayed his welcome with the character, and it's just like it very much by the end of his time on screen felt like they just wanted Bill Murray to say they got Bill Murray in the MCU.
Yeah.
And there wasn't really like a purpose or intentionality behind it.
It's like he's trying to make up for being for doing the Garfield movie, and it's just making it worse.
Well, I feel like he's made up for the Garfield movie with his line in Zombieland. With like,
fair. That's actually exactly why I said
Garfield
that.
movie, probably.
See, I honestly, I liked that character at the end of his time on screen, because like in the beginning of it, I was like, okay, he's kind of an annoying, just weird character. And then when he kind of turned that table of actually being kind of evil, it was like, okay, this is actually interesting.
The issue with that, though, is like if they were going to do a flip like that, where it's like, oh, he's actually a villain, why did they just instantly kill him off? To like take someone like Bill Murray, who doesn't really play villains in movies, and make him a villain, even if he is only like a tertiary villain. like to have him playing a villain is kind of a unique thing. And just in
Yeah.
cinema in general, because that's not really what Bill Murray does usually. And so
Right.
if they're going to make him the villain, lean into it. Let him kind of be there and like play that story of like, oh, is he and Janet going to end up like helping each other out because of their past, or is he gonna like just betray her the whole way through the movie and be a true villain? Like there's so much that they could have done, but the way that they did it is why I think he did overstay his welcome, because it's like, oh, he's a villain and he's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that.
I like if he had been there kind of like just the like smart aleck goofy villain in the background, like kind of helping Kang, but also like, I'm alive because I've helped you with a few things, but the next mess up could be the moment that I'm not alive anymore. Like that could have been a fun dynamic with the story. And like I feel like him and Jonathan Majors Kang playing off of each other could have made for some interesting dynamics, I think.
Yeah. What do you... This just was kind of an idea that came to mind as you were saying it, but like, what would you have thought if he ended up being the one that played MODOK instead of Darren?
Oh man, I don't know. That like
Ooh.
Just out of curiosity, like it's not
I
something
like
that would ever happen, I don't think.
it
But
would be something that would kind of skirt like, okay, are they gonna make him be like a full-on villain and let him really like play that villainous role, or are they gonna start doing that like more goofy villain, kind of like what they did with MODOK? Because if they had done the more comical villain, I don't think it would have really changed much with MODOK.
Mm-hmm.
If it was him, if they had done a little bit more of a serious villain and kind of like let Bill Murray kind of stretch his legs and do something a little bit different, I think it could have been interesting.
Yeah. I also have to say that the sorry to kind of switch gears here a little bit, but with MODOK himself, like the idea that Darren ended up becoming MODOK was a little weird to me.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I know the comic book accurate version and / the video game version of him, where he was a scientist that was just trying to make himself smarter, and ended up messing with, well, in the video games it was Terrigen Mist from the Inhumans part of the world, but I can't remember what the comic book version of it was, but like, and it ended up making his brain larger and his body stayed the same.
Yeah. I mean, like they're no strangers to kind of changing up things like that in the MCU. They've done that a handful of times. Just, I mean, like Iron Man 3, they took like 4 different comic book arcs and managed to mess up all of them. But I mean, they like made a bunch of changes there, and like there's been a number of changes. Some of them work, some of them don't. This one was one that just didn't really work, I think.
Yeah.
Like, I think that it was an interesting take on it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the way they did it was a little weird, but it ended up kind of working in the end. But I still didn't quite feel comfortable with it.
It seemed like they were
different. They went with it. I don't know that there was much else they could have done, since they did make it pretty drastically different.
Yeah.
I would also add that with the fact that they introduced him in this one and then killed him in this one, like definitively killed him in this one. We saw him dead, and there were visual cues of no, he DED dead. So he gone.
Yeah.
I think they changed it particularly with that in mind, so that they can get away from having him further on down the line.
Yeah.
Which my understanding of the character, which granted is not much at all, he is kind of more of that once and done villain.
In the comic books and in other versions of it, like whatever you have, like cartoons and stuff like that, he's actually a big bad. Like
really?
He's a formidable villain. Like he has like that gem that's on his forehead, that was on his forehead in the movie, that actually has a bigger role in the Marvel universe outside of the movies. Because that's what he focused all of his psychic energy through, and that's what helped him do that. So they didn't even mention it at all in the movie, what it was.
Yeah, they really glossed over that, and like there were some aspects that they touched on with Kang that I thought were really cool. Just saying, like talking about like the multiversal aspects and the things that he's done, and like how many universes he's kind of ruined and destroyed. And I was like, okay, that's really cool. And then he brings in this new technology, and it's like, this is capable of traveling the multiverse. I am strong enough to wipe out multiverses. And then it just kind of stopped. You know what I mean? Like they could have used like that multiversal aspect to explain what they did to MODOK, which I think would have made sense. They could. There's like I don't know. I felt like there was so much that they could have done with that, and then they just like teased it and then just didn't do anything.
Yeah. See, that's what I think this movie was, though. It was a big tease for what's to come. It was like what David said. It's a lot of foreshadowing of like because Kang is supposed to be the big bad of this phase, or of this of this new.
Well, is he supposed to be the big bad, or is it Secret Invasion? Because that's what they're setting up with the shows and stuff coming up.
So I think the focus of the shows is going to be Secret Invasion, which will play into the movies, which will then phase into Kang being the big bad, and that's me just regurgitating what I gathered from the release of, hey, we're officially announcing Phase 5.
Yeah. So I have a hard time with it myself because, like, especially because of what they did with the Skrulls in Captain Marvel, was they made them good guys. So why is this a secret invasion of Skrulls?
I feel like we're going to see some changes with that aspect that they're doing with the Skrulls and whatnot, because I just don't like the Skrulls were never good guys in the comics in any way. So I feel like we're going to see some changes to this story, or the way that they did that. So I think it's going to go the Swerve route, but I mean, who knows? They could have Kang there and then kind of tease something that was like, I came here to prevent this thing from happening, and then in the end they'll use that as like, oh no, it was the Skrulls. He was better than we were giving him credit for.
Oh.
And then kind of go that route. I don't know. Like, this is just pure speculation.
Yeah, so, no, but it makes sense because of the whole thing that Kang was saying, like they were trying to prevent the major thing from happening.
Right.
No pun intended with Jonathan Majors. But so it could very well be the invasion of the Skrulls that wipes out the universe or something like that, or that particular universe out of the multiverse or something. I don't know.
Yeah, like that was the threat that he was trying to prevent, or like that was a part of the issue that he was able to foresee with all of the timelines that he's seen or something. Like I do feel like it would make more sense to build to that. Like if they do completely change it and make the Skrulls good guys, then the whole Secret Invasion angle is going to make absolutely no sense.
Right. Yeah. Could be interesting.
I understand some of those words.
So the Skrulls are not.
Oddly enough, that's one of the ones I did understand because y'all explained Secret Invasion to me before.
Yeah.
So, like, honestly, here's a recommendation for you, David. Check out the animated Avengers show. That is the best version of the Secret Invasion I've seen as far as like visual outside of the comic book realm that they've done. They did that story very, very, very well. And it was like a full season and a half, 2-season build up in the Avengers cartoon that they led up to that big battle and that big moment with the invasion. So like, I can't recommend it highly enough. Like, it is very, very good. So if you want to know anything about Secret Invasion, absolutely watch the Avengers cartoon.
Okay.
Is that the Avengers or is that Avengers Assemble or?
I would say watch
Do you remember?
both because they do tie together. I don't remember which one of those two specifically had that storyline, but since the two of them do tie together very closely, I would say watch them both, but definitely watch the Secret Invasion part.
Okay.
Yeah. So another thing that I think we have to address is the and this is major spoiler, but the end credit scene.
Which one?
Both, but mostly the final one.
Okay.
Yeah, the big one that teased what's next.
Yeah,
With Loki.
Yeah,
Loki being back, the idea that they're kind of going back to the origin of Kang, because his origins were he was a time traveler from, I think it was the 20s or something like that, the 1920s.
I think so. Yeah.
He ended up going to the future, getting all this technology, then coming back and so there's all this stuff, but then bringing in Loki with the
Bureau.
the Bureau there is like, okay, this tying it back into this is so cool.
Yeah, and it was really interesting to see that genuine fear and intimidation on Loki's face. That's something we really hadn't seen outside of his interactions with Thanos.
Mm-hmm.
It's he didn't if Loki is scared, you should probably run.
Right.
Yeah, that much I picked up on. So I mean, that is a good way of showing off, of building up a villain, of having someone already established as being canonically powerful, shivering.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great way to build the audience, especially for audience members like me who, frankly, tuned out for a phase and a half or two, whatever we're at now, where it's like, okay, well, there's another one. It was an interesting way for them to build up. To build up just how much of a problem Kang is going to present and the overall storyline.
Yeah.
The crazy thing to me though is that they showed off how powerful Kang is to begin with, and now they're going back to the origin.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's not generally how they do things. Is they usually start with the origin, they go back to the origin, they go back to the origin. That it's always multiple versions of the origin, and
they
then
pull a Batman with it.
I was thinking Spider-Man, but yeah.
Both work.
My only concern is that they may spend too much time on the origin, specifically in the Loki show. It's if they're going to do an origin, and this is going to be the big bad, the new Thanos for this, leading up to that secret invasion and whatnot, they need to do some stuff and explain some of that origin, because whether we agree with it or not, there's a lot of people that just don't watch the Marvel TV shows on Disney Plus. And if they don't explain more about these characters, and they refer back to things that were just in the shows and don't actually have them in any of the movies, there's going to be a lot of people well, what are you talking about? I'm not going to go watch the show just to figure out what I need for this one movie. So again, whether you agree with that or not, I do hope that they at least do touch on some of that origin within the cinematic universe. Again, I agree with you. I don't want to see them do origin and then present, origin, present, origin, present. I don't want to see that flip-flopping, but at least give us a little bit to kind of explain, this is what's happening, this is why he's doing what he's doing, and we're off.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely agree. I think it's one of those things where, especially because the Loki show got so popular, I think that it was, again, one of those Disney Plus shows where it took a very long time to get anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And then, it was enjoyable overall, but there was so much lead up to the end. And
the Loki show is the one that I've heard the most mixed comments on. out of all of the other Disney Plus shows, like with WandaVision, it's pretty consistent from anyone I talked to. The first 3 episodes are difficult to get through. After that, it really picks up. Falcon and Winter Soldier, another one that, like most people say, had a slower start, but in the end, it had a really good story and good momentum. Loki is the one that it's like whoever I talk to, it's either a love or hate thing. There's a lot of back and forth depending on who I'm talking to on that one.
Yeah, definitely. So I think if they take it to where the second season they keep with the momentum and keep building the storyline actively instead of just like, okay, this is happening, oh, and then there's something big, then I think that they can build that up to an exciting point into the cinema side of things. And especially with the Kang origin, because like you said, like you don't want to have to go back and watch it unless there's something absolutely interesting that you're like, okay, now I have to go watch it. You know what I mean?
And especially with how interesting a character Kang is.
Right.
Like, even if you haven't read the comic books, if you've played really any of the video games, you've at the very least seen him or seen references to him. Outside of individual standalone games like the 2018 Spider-Man, for example, they didn't talk about Kang because it was just Spider-Man doing Spider-Man things. But like, even in like Lego Marvel's Avengers, Kang, so like like he is a big bad and a very interesting character, and I feel like there's so much that they could do to really build up. I will say that my one concern with Kang is, at least visually, I feel like they killed the coolest looking version of Kang that we saw in the movie. Because like some of the other Kangs, like the Egyptian Kang, I thought looked pretty cool, but like he was like a solid second place. He did not look as cool as the green and purple suit Kang. And so like I'm just like, oh, please bring the suit back, because that suit is kind of like iconic Kang.
That is one thing. As you were mentioning that, I was like, they actually did a really, really good job with that suit. I think they like, the only thing I think that they could have done differently was the face part. It ended up kind of like forming to his face instead of being like the glass like shield in front of his face. I didn't mind it because I thought that actually looked good the way that they did it. Don't get me wrong, it looked good. I think it was a little weird.
That's fair. Like I thought it looked pretty cool, and I was just like, oh, okay, like all of this budget went into Kang for CGI.
So it does remind me of like Star-Lord or something like that, where it kind of like just went around his face, or no, not the Star-Lord mask, but like the little thing that they put on him. Was it Star-Lord?
I kind of compare it a little bit more to like Spider-Man's mask that just actually like sits flush with his face, and you can like see the defining feature of like his nose and his eyes and eyebrows and everything. Like where Star-Lord's was like a helmet, and then like it had those features to show that, but they were sticking out. They weren't actually formed to the face like Spider-Man's mask.
I think I was thinking of more the thing that Drax put on to go outside.
Okay.
Where it was just like a bubble shield. That more so like formed to his body and his face and stuff.
That's fair. I do want to point out, during the big fight scene at the end between Kang and Scott, when that one arm, the part of the suit just got ripped off, and you just saw his arm sitting there, I was like, oh, they're showing off that big arm getting ready for Creed 3 in like a week. Like, this dude can fight. Like, he went through the training. It wasn't for this movie, but he can fight. He is a big guy.
And also on that point, like, did you notice how much less strength he had once that thing got broken?
Less strength, yes. He still had better fighting skill.
Yeah, no, he had better
Scott,
fighting
but
skills,
he definitely was weaker physically.
but that makes it seem like all of his strength and all of his power and stuff, that is his technology. It's not him at all.
Yeah.
Strength, yes. For,
Like super
ferocity.
strength.
There you go.
His super strength and his shields and all his
And
Right.
who knows,
stuff was
they
all
may
technology.
just say that like that specific variant was more reliant on his suit than others, because like the Egyptian version doesn't really have much of a suit to speak of, just the armbands, the headdress, like the typical like Egyptian garb. So like he may have like his powers reliant on the scepter that he had, or something like that. So it's like I don't know, maybe that's kind of how they'll explain it as they go through it. Like
Maybe
each variant has something different that they kind of like pull their powers from, but I don't know.
Maybe I think it's if I had to hazard a guess, because frankly I saw that scene and my first take was, oh, they're showing off that he's not just mean, angry, and trying to take over the world with his brute strength. He's actually plotting. He's actually intelligent and thinking through how he's going to do that.
Yeah.
He's strategic. So
they definitely showed off the strategic elements to his character for sure. I do agree with Dan that like as far as like physical abilities, there definitely was that decline there, because he didn't have the ability to just shoot out all of the beams and everything that he had been shooting out up to that point. He still was physically strong, absolutely, and he was very cunning. Like the suit had absolutely nothing to do with his intelligence, and that was clear that that was the case. But like there's definitely an aspect of his physical prowess that was reliance on that suit.
Yeah.
Right.
And we even saw that a little bit after he fired the arm beam at Scott. He's like holding his arm out, and there's that one damaged spot on the arm that was sparking. And it's just like, okay, like he's looking at that. He notices the spark and he realizes I can't really rely on this like I want to. I'm going to have to change up my strategy going into this.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I think the cool thing that you guys just mentioned about how he strategizes things is why there's so many different versions of him. Mm-hmm. Because each decision that he makes creates another timeline with him. Right. So he has so many different things that he's strategized about, different power sets, different suits, different things like that. That it's like, okay, they're thinking this out a little bit more than we think they are.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's one thing I picked up from that first post-credit scene. That's one thing that definitely stood out of, oh, hang on. That's why the whole Decision Vortex thing was a weapon he was using against them. It was, try walking in my shoes for a bit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't just a, I want to throw you off. It was a, no, I want you to try to grasp what I deal with on the daily. Mm. It was vindictive. It was pointed. It wasn't just a, this will hold you off.
Well, also think about it this way, like one of the reasons why, from what I can gather, the reason why he didn't go in there himself, other than the fact that he couldn't shrink, is he didn't want to deal with more of himself.
Right.
He was scared about that.
He had been banished, and as strong as Kang is, he knows that if it comes to a 1v100 fight, like it's not in his favor, no matter how skillful he may be. And he may be the strongest or smartest variant of Kang, but he is still only one Kang against what we saw was an army of Kangs.
Yeah.
Right. Which, after showing off just this one version of him and then panning out to show hundreds, if not thousands upon thousands of him, that alone is just one of those saucer pan eyes where it's like, oh crap, they're really in it now.
Yeah.
And I would love to see if we do get to touch on some of that Kang origin and whatnot, I would love to see the other Kangs banishing this Kang. Because with how driven and determined he was, that he put up one heck of a fight.
Oh yeah.
and I would like to see that fight with just like see. He may have lost in the end, but how many Kangs did he take with him?
Yeah.
Now,
Definitely.
here's another thing that's occurring to me is if he splits based on decisions, do the others also split when they make decisions, like we saw in the Vortex?
So not all the variants are the decision making split.
Okay.
They are definitely born from different multiverse universes.
Okay.
There are certain ones that are timeline driven, and then others that are just it's a totally different universe.
Yeah, not
Gotcha.
all of them have that like branch off effect. Most of them are kind of creations of the branch off, and not necessarily able to create their own branch off.
Right. So I think the ones that are definitely do. Like what we saw in the Vortex there was if this one makes a decision and splits off into two, then those two make a decision and those split off into two.
Right.
You know, I think it's a pyramid scheme.
Speaking of pyramids, I love the fact that they throw. I'm blanking on the character name. Paul Rudd's
Ant-Man?
his
Scott Lang?
Thank you, Scott. How they show Scott as just another Baskin Robbins employee in that vortex.
I liked that shout out. That was funny.
It's not just a good, funny shout out that would only work in Ant-Man. It's something that kind of illustrates further what's going on.
Yeah.
It's not just a haha because he used to work at that's cute. It was genuinely a no. What's happening here is a convergence of all different decisions. So if he decided, you know what, I'm not going to go Rob Van Dine. It's showing that off, and it was doing so really well. So on that note, again, for visual storytelling, they're getting back to that.
Yeah.
And when they're on, but it was hit and miss.
Mm-hmm. I think the thing that throws it off though a little bit is, and this is just splitting hairs for this thing, but like, or Langs, yeah, splitting Langs, is that the probabilities were from that point.
True.
You know what I mean? So it was a little bit ridiculous on that point.
Yeah.
But
that's a good point. I hadn't even really considered that portion of it, but that does make sense. If all of those different splits are from that specific point, why would just the standard Baskin Robbins Scott show up? Like, because he's definitely not going to be in Quantumania as just a standard Baskin Robbins employee that didn't join the Avengers.
So yeah, it's a little ridiculous.
Fun little shout out,
but
and
it's
I
funny.
like him being there was really funny, and like he ended up being more of like a semi-pivotal character in that moment. But he really kind of should have been. But it was also really funny just the way that it was done.
Yeah. I will say that I have a hard time with those moments because there's certain ones like that, like not the Baskin Robbins thing, but like the whole pilot and like things like that. Like I thought it was cool in this one because it was like an anthill.
That made a lot of sense the way that and that was a really cool little shout out. It's like, okay, he's doing the thing that his character's modeled after.
But I have a harder time with it because I feel like they do that too much in other movies, where like, just for an example, Doctor Strange with the dark magic like thing where it's all just kind of moving around, like the world is moving around. It's like there's no effect that this thing is doing. It's not hurting anyone.
It's a visual MacGuffin. Yeah.
So it's like, why are they doing it? Why is this dark magic? You know what I mean? And they do it a lot in these movies, and it's like, okay.
Like the only other time I've seen them do that split type mechanic that I thought made sense and was a cool effect was Doctor Strange fighting Thanos and Infinity War.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the only other time I've really seen it where I'm like, okay, that was a cool shout out and that was a cool way to like, and which it made sense with like the dynamic of that fight. So I agree. Like, I do think that they tend to do that a lot, but between the Doctor Strange versus Thanos and then this one, these two were the ones that have made the most sense to me.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree.
I also want to point this out, and we've already kind of hit on it a little bit, but where this is kind of somewhat the MCU and Marvel trying to redeem themselves a little bit, or at least go back to their strengths. It's one thing that this emphasized for me is Marvel is at its best when it's emphasizing how weird the multiverse is.
Yeah. Or even its characters themselves.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Thank you. Yes. Where, I mean, okay, you have a dude who, he's a thief, he gets powers because he's a thief, because he stole something useful. Okay, that's fairly run-of-the-mill. Oh, and his power is he shrinks to the size of an ant, which makes him a better thief, and that's somehow going to be his ethical turnaround moment.
Yeah.
Okay, now you're playing odd. And it works for them.
Yeah.
And I think if Marvel can go forward on that note of, okay, what makes our characters quirky? Not what is not necessarily what is the actor bringing to this character that makes them quirky, but what does the character themselves have that's innately quirky?
Yeah.
I think
if an actor can portray it, better.
Does play a role in that, because like if we had seen like the Baskin Robbins Scott Lang with any actor like Chris Hemsworth trying to do that same thing, like a Baskin Robbins Thor, like it wouldn't have really made sense. It wouldn't have had that same comedic timing and whatnot. But like Paul Rudd's delivery adds to it, and so
absolutely,
the character quirkiness is key, but the actors
to be able to pull off that quirkiness as well.
Yeah, the actors
if not add to it
on top of it is where it comes in. And that's that's the thing that we've been seeing. Like, that's why Chris Hemsworth and Dave Bautista have both said, now we're done with Marvel, because they're seeing the changes that they're making to the characters and like, A, that doesn't make sense for the character. And B, that's not my style. That's not who I am. That's not how I've portrayed this character. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
And so like, that's the issue we're running into. Whereas that is one thing that they consistently do well is like, no, we know what Paul Rudd is capable of. We know where his strengths are. We know what he enjoys doing. We're going to let him play in his wheelhouse.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just like Robin Williams as Genie in Aladdin. Like, no, this is like, we're going to let you do your thing. Like, we're going to give you your script. Have fun with it. Like,
yeah. I was going to say, kind of to that point, like with the casting side of things, where like if you take a character who is a very quirky character, and I have a specific one in mind that we all have fan casted, is Squirrel Girl. And it's a very, very quirky, strange character, but we all have the same thought of who we think would be best in that character.
It's not who we think would be best, it's who we know would be best.
Right.
Yeah, and let's be fair, with that particular fan casting, it's not just us. It's everyone except for Marvel execs, apparently.
Apparently, yeah. Anna Kendrick, baby.
Even Anna Kendrick has more or less said, yeah, let's do it. I'm down.
Yeah.
This seems fun.
And bless her heart, she needs a lighthearted role.
Yeah. I think she would be perfect for that role because of her quirkiness, her comedic timing. You know, I think that would be a perfect role for her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, kind of to bring it back, and this is more just a noob question, because let's face it, it's what I am on this episode for sure. Is there a tie-in between Squirrel Girl and Ant-Man other than MCU and lesser thought of characters?
I personally don't know of any tie-ins. I am not as studied up on the Squirrel Girl character, so I'm not the best one to ask on that one. But
she is more tied to the Young Avengers, like Spider-Man, White Tiger. Who else am I thinking of? The Maximoff twins. Things like that. They what?
She's gonna say, weren't the Maximoff twins? Weren't they kind of a one shot?
Yeah. Yes and no, because they are in the multiverse, so they're there.
Shots fired.
But
Many shots fired.
yeah. Oh, okay. Sorry, I misunderstood. I was talking about Wanda's kids.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah. Not Quicksilver and his and him being Hawkeye's shield. But yeah, no, like the Squirrel Girl definitely is tied in more so in the either the Young Avengers or the New Avengers. I can't remember which one it is, but yeah, I don't think she had any ties necessarily to Ant-Man because Ant-Man, both versions of Ant-Man are much older than her.
Okay.
Yeah. But she's had various interactions with several different Avengers characters, but like to my knowledge, she's never had any direct correlation with Ant-Man or any of the kind of core Avengers members.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I think that'll about wrap up our episode for today about Ant-Man. If you guys enjoyed this episode, please share it with your friends and keep on listening. Thanks for tuning in. Have a good one.